Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the mdlove podcast. Today we are going to start part 3 out of 4 of Loving Neverland. We are going to learn about, unfortunately, the dark time in MJ's life during the trial. They titled this part The Unfair Trial of Michael in the Court of Public Opinion. So basically, the press have put Michael on trial before the actual trial, and they decided that he is guilty before there were any evidence, and they decided to share with the world that he is guilty as if this was a fact. And it was definitely a very, very dark time. They were bullying him a lot. There were a lot of really nasty headlines. They were calling him names. Again, before anything was even proven. It's not really surprising. They didn't like MJ for a long time. But they definitely took that to a whole other level during those years. So today we're going to learn exactly what MJ had to do with and how the world reacted to it and what the press did with it and just how evil and cruel they were. And we're all going to remind ourselves exactly why we don't like them, we don't trust them, and we will never forgive them. So, as always, grab your cup of coffee or tea. This is going to be a long episode. And let's start learning what happened. Okay, this is the opening. We can skip that. Loving Neverland. Okay, here we go. Again, it was produced by two MG fans, two female fans, Nandita Raghav and Debelina Ike. I hope I'm saying those names right. And they did a fantastic work, and we should keep thanking them for this because this is amazing. Okay, let's see. (2003).
An arrest warrant for Mr. Jackson has been issued on multiple counts of child molestation. The bail amount on the warrant has been set at $3 million.
Wow. Okay, so they start this part with the airplane where Michael is landing and he's being arrested, and they put the cuffs on him, which was really unnecessary. He wasn't going to go anywhere. And from what he said, those handcuffs were really small and they hurt his hands. And this was basically the beginning of the biggest storm in MJ's life. I mean, to think about everything we've seen so far in part 1 and 2, I bet all those evil people from the dark side thought that they finally got him. No, they're finally going to shut him up, put him behind bars. So yeah, they probably thought this was the beginning of the end. Let's see where this episode will take us. I am warning you, this is going to be hard, but again, important. So let's see what happens.
The information is disgusting and false. Years ago, I allowed a family to visit and spend some time at Neverland. Neverland is my home. I allowed this family into my home because they told me their son was ill with cancer and needed my help. Through the years, I have helped thousands of children who are ill or in distress. These events have caused a nightmare for my family, my children, and me. I never intend to place myself in so vulnerable a position ever again. I love my community, and I have great faith in our justice system. Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I deserve a fair trial like every other American citizen. I will be acquitted and vindicated when the truth is told. Thank you.
So, for those of you who may not know, he is talking about the Arvizos. I'm not sure exactly how they got into MJ's life. I'm sure we're gonna learn it through this documentary. But basically, Michael was part of their life. They were part of his. And Gavin Arvizo had cancer. And with Michael's help, basically what they said is that the boy was dying and Michael saved his life. And as a thank you, they decided to destroy MJ's life because they're amazing people. Just being sarcastic, obviously. So from what I know, and I'm sure they're going to mention it, basically the Arvizos stayed at Neverland for a long time, on Michael's expense, of course. Michael paid for the mothers to go to a hair salon and whatever. Like, he paid for a lot of stuff. He bought them a lot of stuff. And I guess they had, the mother anyway, had this idea that this is her life from now on, that this is the lifestyle that she deserves. And I read in Dieter Wiesner's book that everything basically started when Michael felt that they stayed there for too long and it was time for them to leave. But of course, he could never, he could never kick somebody out of his property. So he sent Mr. Wiesner to tell the Arvizos that it's time to go home. And from what he says, he did it in the nicest way possible. But they didn't like it, or actually the mother didn't like it, and kind of implied that she will revenge, because she really planned on staying there forever, to actually live there and to live on MJ's expense. She basically decided that Michael should just sponsor her life and her family's life. And when she couldn't get money from him in that way, she made up a plan to get money from him in a more vicious way. And we're going to learn about that in this part. Okay, so let's continue.
It all started with the release of the Martin Bashir documentary Living with Michael Jackson, which featured the boy Gavin Arvizo. Michael Jackson was introduced to Gavin and his family in the year 2000, after the boy had requested to meet Jackson. He was suffering from cancer at that time. According to Gavin, Jackson called him about 20 other times during his illness.
You see, they're showing the footage, the video footage of Gavin Arvizo with MJ, that MJ is pushing him with the wheelchair, that they are walking through Neverland, and Gavin seemed very, very comfortable around Michael. Now, when a child is being molested by someone, the last thing they feel is comfortable around that person. Just something that people should take notice, okay? In the Bashir documentary, where you see Gavin and Michael holding hands, that kid doesn't show any, he doesn't look uncomfortable, not to me anyway, and I'm sure to you as well. When you are being molested by someone, when you're afraid of them, you don't hold hands. You definitely don't go back to the same place over and over again. And also, let me remind you, let's talk about safe check for a second. You don't ask to go and get married in the same place where you claim to be molested. Okay? Okay, I don't want to make a salad from those two cases. Okay, let's just today focus on the Arvizos. But basically, the images that I'm seeing right now is that that little boy was very comfortable around Michael. Okay? He doesn't look like a kid who was molested.
After Gavin's first round of chemotherapy, the Arvizo family visited Neverland for the first time in August 2000. On their very first visit, Gavin and his brother Star begged Jackson to let them sleep in his bedroom. This is the night that's referenced in the 2003 Martin Bashir documentary that caused massive public uproar.
You see, the boys have begged MJ to sleep in his bedroom, so it is very possible that the mother has planned it from the very beginning, and maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that Michael kind of asked them to leave Neverland. This was planned, most likely. And okay, let's continue. Let's see.
Even though both Gavin and Jackson made it clear that while the kids slept in the bed, Jackson slept on the floor.
Gavin came to Michael and said, "Michael, can we sleep in your room tonight?"
This is Frank Cassio. And this is the same Frank Cassio who we are about to hear how he's going to defend MJ, but now he's extorting the estate. He's asking for $200 million. And if they won't pay, then, he will tell other stories. So I just want you to remember that. But anyway, let's listen to him defending MJ. So that, if he will ever dare to tell other stories, we have that as evidence.
And Michael looked at me and says, "I don't know, I think you better ask your mother." "Oh, we already asked our mother. She says, sure, no problem." I'm like, no, this is something's odd. This is not right. And then as I was about to go tell Gavin that he cannot sleep in Michael's room, Michael says, "Okay, I have a solution for this. You have to sleep in the room with me." The two children slept on the bed, and Michael and I slept on the floor.
After this incident, Jackson actively avoided them and maintained distance from the family personally, while helping them to cope with Gavin's illness as well.
So it seems like, according to this story, is that Michael felt uncomfortable around them, that he may have suspected that they're trying something, and he had a gut feeling that something is wrong, and he was trying to avoid them. But at the same time, he felt sorry for the boy because he still had cancer and he needed help. So they put him in a very uncomfortable position. Yeah, they definitely took advantage of his kindness. But that was the purpose from the beginning, right? Okay, let's continue.
He allowed the Arvizos to use the ranch for a blood drive for Gavin, where all his employees donated their blood. Jackson gave the family a white van and a laptop as a gift, which were later sent back to Jackson in order to have them repaired as they had broken down. But according to the Arvizos, they never saw any of those items again. They didn't have much contact with each other until the Bashir documentary in 2003.
So Michael didn't really keep in touch. I guess Gavin felt better. He was healed. So he felt like he could move on. Like, he did his job. That's it. He is safe. He doesn't have to be more involved in their lives. But then came Bashir. Okay, that's how I call him. I will never call him by his name because this is obviously a very, very bad man. And I'm being very gentle. Okay, let's continue.
Martin Bashir was a British journalist who had earlier interviewed Princess Diana, and then proposed to have Jackson interviewed in order to present the public with the real Michael Jackson.
Okay, do you want to hear an interesting fact? And I just remembered it. And this was again something that I read in Dieter Wisner's book. Did you know that Mr. Bashir had a brother who worked as a private driver for about 20 years to a man that is also very powerful in the music industry? So he had a connection. So Martin Bashir had a connection with someone that was very powerful in the music industry. And his brother was the driver of Tommy Mottola. Isn't that interesting? Okay, just something to think about. So let's continue. Let's hear what happened.
Jackson gave Bashir something he had never given any other journalist: unprecedented access to his private life, allowing Bashir and his film crew to follow him for 8 months.
We began a journey together, across continents, through his past, and rapidly into the disturbing reality of his life today.
Again, like, I've watched Living with Michael Jackson many times, simply because Michael was, to me, absolutely perfect in that. I don't know if you can call it a documentary, but let's call it a documentary, okay? Obviously, I hated all of Bashir's comments. With time, I have learned to ignore them. I just listened to MJ because he was, like I said, absolutely perfect and so open, and he showed us his world. He didn't hide anything. This was an interview that he never gave. He never, was so open. Unfortunately, he was open to the wrong person, but the right people, the fans that truly love him, see the good parts of this documentary. But anyway, I have noticed that Bashir is purposely keep repeating the words weird, bizarre, unusual, just to kind of get it into people's head that everything is wrong about MJ. All the things he says are wrong. The thing he does are wrong. There's something very wrong in his world, in his mindset. And it is so not true. If you are looking at this documentary, if you are watching this with an open mind and an open heart, then you can see who Michael really is, and you will not be influenced by this evil man's words, or by that rat, as MJ called him. So I would suggest to watch this and just focus on Michael and ignore Bashir opinions, because they don't matter, because he obviously had a purpose. He obviously wanted, he is a journalist, right? And his documentary is no different than all those headlines in the newspapers when they're trying to tell you that Michael is weird and whatever. He's doing it with spoken words, they're doing it with written words, but they all have the exact same goal: to make you think that there is something wrong with Michael. And there is nothing wrong with MJ. There's everything is wrong with them, okay? They are liars, they are scammers, and they're trying to scam the public and ruin MJ's life. That's all it is. And you should know that. Okay, moving on.
During the creation of the documentary, Bashir suggested to Jackson that in the film, he could show to the public how he'd helped children with serious illnesses throughout his life. Jackson presented Bashir with 2 choices: David Rothenberg, who was mercilessly put ablaze by his own father when he was a child in the 1980s, and the other, cancer survivor Gavin Arvizo. But Bashir went with the 13-year-old Gavin instead, even though Dave was present as well. So Gavin, with his siblings Star and Davlin, were invited on the sets.
So I'm going to take a wild guess that he chose Gavin Arvizo because of the mother. Because he felt like she will participate in this scam against Michael. And Dave truly loved Michael and never thought to use him for anything. And so, I mean, that's my guess. This was about who he can fool, you know. I hope I make sense. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Okay, moving on.
Get all, no more cancer. All gone. All gone.
Jackson trusted that Bashir had no hidden agenda in how he presented his relationship with Gavin, and out of naivety and gullibility allowed himself to be filmed showing affection for Gavin. After insisting off camera to hold Gavin's hands and cleverly planting a conversation to imply that the two had slept together in the same bed.
Do you stay in the house? Does Michael let you enjoy the whole premises?
There was one night I stood in the I asked him if I could stay in the bedroom. And he let me stay in the bedroom. And I was like, Michael, you can sleep on the bed. And he was like, no, you sleep on the bed, sleep on the bed. We're like, no.
Interesting. So Bashir is asking him, like, are you allowed to go wherever you want? Like in the Neverland is like this huge place, like, and he asking him, can you just be wherever you want? And then he immediately answers and talks about the bedroom. I really feel like someone has planted those words in his mouth. Like someone told him, talk about that. Talk about how you slept in his bedroom. Because he asks about the entire Neverland, like where do you go, what do you do there, and he focused on the bedroom. That sounds to me like someone told him to say that. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Really?
You know, you sleep on the bed. And then he finally said, okay, if you love me, you sleep on the bed. I was like, oh man. And so I finally slept on the bed. But it was fun that night. I slept on the floor.
See, Michael was very careful. He listened, he smiled, but then he goes and say, and I slept on the floor. I don't want it to sound like I invited him to sleep on the bed while I was on the bed. Like I insisted him to go in the bed with me. That wasn't the case. I slept on the floor. Okay, he made that very clear. Okay, let's move on.
Mr. Jackson didn't say we sleep in the bed together. What Mr. Jackson said was Gavin Arvizo slept on his bed and he slept on the floor.
See?
Jackson felt betrayed by Bashir. He exploited Jackson's poor judgment in public relations and portrayed the relationship between Jackson and the boy in a false, misleading, and manipulative way.
Now I'm going to go back to Dieter Wisner's book, where he says that really until the last minute Michael trusted Bashir, or he wanted to trust Bashir, and said even though he never saw the edited documentary, he was supposed to see exactly what Bashir has done and approve it, and then he could, show it to the public. He didn't do it. He didn't show the edited footage to Michael, but still Michael said, don't worry, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be, he really didn't understand who Bashir was, and he understood that when it was unfortunately too late. But that just shows how pure his heart is. He really, really wanted to trust people, no matter how shitty they are, It is sad, but yeah, that's what happened.
Bashir is the same journalist who was accused of inappropriate behavior, not returning the crucial evidence to the deceased family and eventually losing it, misleading a teenage prodigy's father to secure an interview, and many more.
Okay, they showed some headlines. Let me see exactly what they were talking about. So there are headlines about Mr. Bashir from November of 2020, and the headline says, "And they made this man the religion editor. Martin Bashir is accused of preying on grieving parents, lying, and crude sex jokes," write Mark Hooklam and Adam Luck. Okay, so there's this hint that he is not an honest man, to be gentle. Okay, there were other headlines. Let's see what else they have to say about him.
Not returning the crucial evidence to the deceased family.
BBC star lost murder evidence. I don't know what that is. There's another headline that says Bashir accused over babes in the wood murder evidence. I don't know what that is.
And eventually losing it. Misleading a teenage prodigy's father to secure an interview.
Oh, wow. So, I see tweets from this woman. I will read you one of them. Her name is Sophia Yusuf, and she goes, "The legacy of Martin Bashir, a nasty, spiteful little bully and coward, strangely sexually obsessed with white women and fantasizing about being a posh, upper-class Englishman, and claimed to be a liberal in favor of minorities when it suited him." Oh, wow. Okay. This is, Okay, listen. It is no secret to anyone that this man is dishonest. We are also going to learn about the story with Princess Diana, how he faked a note from her and he showed it to MJ, and this was, from what I know, the main reason Michael agreed to that interview, because, you know, he was friends with Lady D, and so he thought that if Princess Diana liked him and approved him, then that means he should approve this interview as well. What he didn't know is that that note was completely fake, and of course Lady Diana was no longer alive, so, you know, she couldn't confirm it to him. So, you know, he totally fooled everyone. Like, that guy is like a major scammer. Major scammer. Horrible man.
And many more. And who now, 25 years after Princess Diana's interview, is being accused by Diana's brother of tricking him and deceitfully getting Diana's interview by playing off her fears that the Secret Service was bugging her private conversations.
Okay, there's another headline here that says, "Royal exclusive, Princess Brother sensationally exposes Bashir letter falsely accusing Charles of affair with Princess Nanny plus he demands inquiry into whitewash over panorama interview." Okay, so I guess he somehow got the Princess Diana interview also through a scam, also through a dishonest thing that he did. Is anyone surprised? Nope.
Bashir showed Spencer forged bank statements that were doctored by a graphic designer to wrongly suggest that 2 senior courtiers were being paid by the security services, feeding into Diana's fears that she was being spied on. Spencer further stated that not only BBC knew about it, but that they had covered it up all these years.
His face, his denials about plastic surgery, his relationship with Blanket's mother, and of course, I also wanted to return to the Neverland sleepovers. Confronting him wouldn't be easy, but now it had to happen.
Like the footage he shows while saying those things, "I'm going to confront him and it's not going to be easy." Like, he's just walk on the beach like, I want to do the right thing and bring the truth, and I'm just an honest man that wants to, you know, to tell you what's really going on. It's like, it is so ridiculous. We know who you are. And it's like the game, horrible man. Horrible man.
Throughout the documentary, he used suggestive and highly manipulative narration, which made it seem as if his intention from the very beginning was to create and feed in innuendo about Jackson's relationship with children.
Yeah, he's just there to expose the truth. Well, the truth has been exposed, and we know who you are. So, yeah. And you know what? He absolutely failed, because a lot of people have seen who Michael truly is, because good people recognize good people, and the truth recognize the truth. And in many ways he failed, but unfortunately then, came the trial. It's complicated. It's really complicated.
A rebuttal documentary, The Footage You Were Never Meant to See, was released by Jackson's team.
Yeah, so Michael was smart enough to have his own cameras during the interviews. Is it because he suspected Bashir, or he was just being careful? Maybe it was both. I don't know. But it was smart.
Showing footage of Jackson's cameraman capturing the moments that Bashir had intentionally edited out.
About Michael's ranch, Mr. Bashir's on-air comment was, "One of the most disturbing things is the fact that a lot of disadvantaged children go to Neverland. It's a dangerous place for a vulnerable child to be." But what he said behind the scenes was this.
I was here yesterday and I saw it, and it's nothing short of a spiritually kind thing.
See, so behind the scenes, he is, there's no nice way to say it, kissing MJ's butt, like, he was like, oh, everything is so spiritual and nice and lovely. And then on the documentary is, he goes, it's a dangerous place for, for those kind of kids. Like, do you understand who this man is and how his mind works? Horrible man.
This comment about Michael's method of raising children was included on Bashir's special. They are restricted. They are overly protected. I was angry at the way his children were made to suffer. But this was not.
Wow, he made that comment as if he gives a crap about children, about MJ's children. He doesn't care about anyone. He just wanted to trash Michael, okay? Because let's see what he really says to Michael about his kids.
Your relationship with your children is spectacular. And in fact, it almost makes me weep when I see you with them.
Martin Bashir.
I mean, that guy is such a hypocrite. Oh, your relationship with your children, it's so special. It makes me want to cry when I see it. Like, come on. Like, who are you fooling? I can't believe Michael bought into this. How sad. But, I can't really... I'm not judging. I mean, he fooled a lot of people. I guess he's really good at what he's doing. Really good. To a point, because we already know who he is. He has been exposed.
Bashir is an interesting example of a man who made his name off of the back of Michael Jackson, lured him in under the pretense that he was going to help Michael Jackson's career by erasing any possibility of allegations of the past, by bringing forward Michael's ability and want and desire to help children and create this international children's holiday that Michael wanted so badly. He promised Michael that that's what this would be about, this international children's holiday, and that he'd make Michael Jackson look like another Princess Diana. That's what he promised.
See? No wonder people believed him. Like, he came with this really positive, great idea, and of course Michael fell into it. Yeah, this is really sad.
Martin showed Michael a letter from Princess Diana. Thanking him for the show that he did with her.
Did you hear that? So Bashir showed MJ a letter from Princess Diana thanking him for that interview. And as I said before, this was completely fake. And then unfortunately, because Princess Diana wasn't alive, she couldn't confirm it. No one could. But now we know it is a fake. We know the truth.
The interview that said, Martin's a great guy, he'll take care of you, it was a great interview, whatever. And then Michael just figured, oh, he's okay then. If it was, if Di liked him, he was fine. He didn't care. He wasn't trying to be Michael's friend.
Michael didn't learn till after the documentary was made that Martin Bashir had been officially reprimanded in Britain for unfair journalistic practices.
Is there things that you left out of this thing? You're like, I'm happy I did?
Absolutely not. It was difficult because, I guess to some extent, because I come from Britain where we don't do sycophantic interviews. We don't really suck up to people very much. We don't do that kind of thing.
We don't suck up to people. What did you do? What would you just hear him say? Oh, your relationship with your children, it's so special, I want to cry. Oh, it's amazing that you bring all those children to Neverland. Oh, yeah, you don't suck up to people? Then how did you get this interview? Ugh, horrible, man. Fake fraud. Ugh.
Made the documentary, there was a small part of that which...
So this is now Bashir talking after Michael was pronounced dead. Let's see what he has to say now after he tried purposely to ruin MJ's life.
Contained a controversy concerning his relationship with other young people. But the truth is that he was never convicted of any crime. I never saw any wrongdoing myself. And whilst his lifestyle may have been a bit unorthodox, I don't believe it was criminal.
Too little, too late. Okay? He did whatever he could to tell a story that Michael has this unusual relationship with the children, that something might be going on over there. And then after Michael is gone, he suddenly goes, no, I didn't see anything wrong. I didn't. Really? Then what was all this documentary was about? That man is so fake. So fake. This is horrible. Absolutely horrible. Like, how do people not realize who this guy really is? Oh, it's I can't even talk. I'm so shocked I can't even talk. And it's not nothing that I didn't know before. It's just, seeing all those things again and again. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. I'm just mad. Seriously. And just to give you a heads up, I'm going to get mad a lot during this series because there's so many things that happened that led to the trial, and there's this guy Bashir, and then there are the headlines and so many things that had happened. So yeah, a warning, I'm going to get mad a lot. So hopefully you guys are getting a little bit angry as well, and it will turn you into an activist, and defend MJ more, because I keep seeing comments from all these losers, brainless people who just still think that MJ is guilty, and they don't take the time to actually see what happened, what is the other side of the story. They just want to trash, they just want to say ugly things. They do take the time to watch the mockumentaries, but they will not watch things like Loving Neverland or Square One or whatever, because they're idiots. Okay, at the end of the day, they're idiots. And there's not much we can do with that. They didn't get a brain. It's unfortunate, I guess when, God gave brains, they were out of town, I don't know. But anyway, it is what it is. So let's move on. I'm sorry if I'm a bit intense today, but this whole thing is just painful and annoying, and there are a lot of people to hate here, okay? So let's just move on.
It is clear that Bashir duped him into believing that he would make a positive documentary that would put forth the truth about his life, but instead depicted Jackson as a dangerous man who is not fit to be around children, and portrayed him in a negative light totally opposite to what he had promised. Nothing positive made the cut.
Exactly, and it wasn't just about children. He talked about everything. The way, like, he showed how Michael is a shopaholic. You know, how he spends money, and how, you know, he might not be a normal man who, you know, be interested in women. Because, you know, when there's the scene where Michael's talking about the tree that he likes to sit on and write songs, and then Martin asks him, do you not prefer being with women? Like, and Michael was like so shocked that, you know, he thought they were talking about one thing, about his creation, about his art. Like, how did that get in there? Like, so, you know, he was trying to, you know, basically all those things that the media was trying to tell us for years and years, he was trying to do it with footage, with, you know, everything that was in print for years. He was trying to do it in the documentary. So it wasn't just about children. Obviously, we know that this documentary led to the trial, so that's why they keep talking about it here in Loving Neverland. But basically, in the entire thing that Bashir created, he was trying to show the world that Michael is not a normal man. And yes, he lives a very different life from most people, but trust me, when it comes to his thinking, he is very normal. Let's continue and see what else they have to say.
The documentary aired on 3rd of February 2003. This segment caused a storm of bad publicity for Jackson and wild speculations about the nature of his relationship with Gavin Arvizo, when in reality, there was not even a relationship between Jackson and Gavin in the first place, as they had hardly even met. As a result of the documentary, the media went into a frenzy, and they tried to hunt down the Arvizo family.
See, so there was definitely a conspiracy. And definitely, I believe anyway, that Mottola was part of it. So he sent Bashir to get this interview from MJ. And this was after, I believe, the speech that Michael gave where he called Mottola the devil. Okay, listen, people, this is the whole conspiracy. He sends him, as I said before, Bashir's brother is the driver of Mottola for 20 years. I have this vision in my head how the three of them are meeting in this in some place and planning everything. But anyway, they did this, and then the media, they do the interview, and then the media goes crazy, and then, you know, they take advantage of this, and they create these crazy headlines, and somehow they plant in people's head that Michael is guilty, that he is a child molester, and then the trial happens. And then in 2009, you know, the world is hearing that MJ died, and suddenly he says, well, you know what, I actually didn't see anything wrong. Like, really? Thanks. My goodness, everything is so crazy. Okay, let's move on. I'm sharing a lot today, but, you know, that's what I'm here to do. Okay, moving on.
Jackson's team tried to fight this negative publicity and decided to hold a press conference in Miami on February 5th, 2003, which was eventually called off. Jackson and the Arvizos then returned to Neverland together on the 7th of February. Jackson's team decided to do damage control by releasing a rebuttal video. The Arvizo segment was shot on February 20th. That wasn't included in the rebuttal documentary.
Where were they when I couldn't feed my children, when I had to share a box of cereal? Where were they?
See how she can... This is the mother, by the way, in case you haven't realized. This is the Arvizo mother. Her name is Janet. I know at some point she married someone with the last name Jackson. And this is again one of this, like, she has this delusional mind where she thinks she deserves to be a Jackson. I don't know, like, everything is so twisted, everything is so stupid. I don't even know what to say about that, but whatever. So they did this interview to try and explain that whatever Bashir said in the documentary is completely false, and they are there to tell the true story. And then, well, we know what happened later. So they're always there for the attention, for the cameras, for whatever. And then later they were there for the money. Horrible people.
When my children and I would weep, where were they? When my...
I do have to say, I look at her, like there's this close-up to her face, and her eyes are dead. You know, like there's no feeling there. She's saying the words, but there's no feeling in the eyes. And I can now see what the jury has seen in the trial and why they didn't believe her. There's no feelings in her eyes. It is so scary. It is really scary to look at her, to be honest with you. And I don't know. There's something very, very wrong with this woman. It's not just that she is a liar, but there's just something evil about her. You know how they say that the eyes are the windows of the soul? This woman has no soul. I'm sorry, but she scares me. She really scares me.
My children and I were lonely. Where were they when I didn't have enough money to pay for my bus fare, to get my son to the doctors? Where were they when I had to walk about 3 hours to get to the doctors for my children? And now, all of a sudden, they're caring and concerned because Michael Jackson is involved, the very same man who cares about me and my 3 kids, to make sure that their past is erased and that all they can count is the future.
Now, I know she is telling the truth here, you know, with when she talked about Michael and how he helped them and everything, but still this feels like an act to me, if you know. And I think that I know what the jury in the trial saw. She's an act. She's an actress, not a very good one, by the way, but she is an actress. And I know this has nothing to do with it, but if you followed the Johnny Depp trial, she reminds me a lot of Amber Heard. She was also acting in that trial. She was trying to pretend that something really horrible happened. But, you know, people could see in her eyes like there's no feeling there. People are not stupid. They feel you. And, yeah, there's something very, very off with this woman.
Full of happiness, joy, and safety. Where are those people when I needed him, when I needed them? And now, Michael is there for us, there for all 3 of them.
She's saying these beautiful things about MJ, but I keep seeing this anger in her face, like evilness, anger issues. Like, you know what? The 3 children, I'm seeing them now. They seem so scared. This is obviously the work of their mother. This whole scam, this whole trial, everything. This is her work. I can feel how she would threaten them or do something to scare them. How they were controlled by her. You know, there's something so scary about this woman. I'm sorry, but not really sorry, to be honest with you. She just, I don't know. I can see why those kids would just do whatever she told them to do. Okay. Scary woman. Horrible. How all these people keep getting into MJ's life. This is what driving me crazy. There are so many people out there who just purely loves MJ and would love to spend 5 minutes with him. And somehow all those evil dark forces are there to spend days, months, and years by his side. And then later, you know, Hey, this is just okay. Let's just listen to a little bit more and see where that takes us.
He couldn't even talk. And he gave my little brother so much.
The Arvizos wanted to be compensated because of the damage done by the Bashir documentary on February 21st and 25th.
Now, I do just want to add and say, don't think that she did it out of her kindness, you know. She probably did it just so that Michael would continue to sponsor her life, you know. I bet, you know, she came from this poor neighborhood. She didn't have anything, and then suddenly she goes and she lives with Michael, who was a very wealthy man. And, you know, she wanted the lifestyle. She wanted to be treated like a princess. And she was afraid to lose it. So, you know, she did whatever she could to stay there and, you know, to stay in MJ's life. So, yes, she's telling the truth. Michael helped them, and you know, the Gavin Arvizo was well, and you know, he was healed. But don't think that she was so grateful that he saved her son's life. No, she just wanted the money. Her eyes, that has no soul in them, saw nothing but money. So, yeah. I just don't want you to think for a second that she's a good person, that she was on MJ's side at any time. She wasn't.
Janet Arvizo met with a civil lawyer, William Dickerman. According to Janet Arvizo, she contacted Dickerman because she wanted him to stop the media from using the children's photos in their publications and on their programs. Dickerman then began writing letters to Jackson's attorney, Mark Gregaros, demanding the return of furniture, clothes, documents, and various other items which were put in a storage locker after the Arvizos moved out of their Los Angeles apartment on March 2nd. In his letters, Dickerman also claimed that Jackson's people harassed and followed around the Arvizo family after they had left Neverland. No mention of molestation or false imprisonment. Dickerman later referred them to Larry Feldman, the same civil lawyer who negotiated the settlement for the Chandlers in the year 1993.
Okay, so the plot thickens. Okay, so you know if we're gonna stop here, because obviously there's so many other very the story is very detailed. There are other details we need to discuss, but we're gonna do that in the next episode. I'm gonna try and do this again tomorrow. If not, then sometime this week. Anyway, as I said, there's so much to talk about, to learn from this story, and we're gonna talk about everything as time goes by. If anyone is bothered by my comments, please let me know. If you have questions, anything, use the comment section. Let me know how you feel about my comments, about what you're hearing. Maybe you can add your own. And let's have a discussion about what we are learning here. Have you learned anything new today? Anyway, I will talk to you in the next episode. We will continue to talk about the Arvizos, the trial, and everything. So thank you guys for being here. And keep Michaeling.